Alright guys, in this video I'm going to show you how to get started with jQuery. We'll include it in our document, and then we're going to look at some really simple things like selectors and some of the mouse events that we can use. So we're going to need to include jQuery, and there's a few ways you can do it. You can use a CDN, which is a content delivery network, which is just basically a link to an external jQuery file, and you can Google has CDNs available, so does jQuery.com and some others, but we're going to go ahead and just download jQuery and include it in our project. Okay, so if we go to jQuery.com/download, and there's a few different versions. We're going to use the latest one at this time, which is 3.1.0. So I'm going to click this download the compressed production jQuery, and that's going to download. Let's see, I want that to go in my project folder, and I'm going to create a folder called JS, and we'll save it right in there. Okay, so along with that we just have our index HTML file. Okay, so now that that's in there, we're going to include that up here in the head. So we're going to say script source, and that's going to be in the JS folder, and let me just check the exact name of the file. Okay, so jQuery-310.min.js. Actually, I'll just copy it. Okay, so we'll just go like that, and now it's included and we can use it. So what I'm going to do is in the body, I'm going to create a paragraph, and actually let's just do a paragraph for now. Okay, save that. And then down in the script area, first thing we want to do is make sure that the document's ready for us to actually run jQuery. So we're going to use the $, which is basically stands for jQuery. And our selector in this case is going to be the entire document, and we're going to use the ready action. Okay, so when it's ready, then we're going to run a self-calling function. Okay, and then inside that function is where we want all of our stuff to happen. So let's just, for right now, we'll say alert1, and if we reload, you can see we get an alert box. Okay, so the document's ready, and then it's running whatever we put in here. Alright, so what I want to do is grab this paragraph. So to do that, we need to use the jQuery selector, which is just going to be P. Okay, so whatever the tag, same as the CSS selectors. And then we can do stuff to that. So let's call a really simple action called hide. Alright, so now if we reload, that's going to run, and you can see that it hides that paragraph. Alright, we can also bring it back with show. So we'll say .show, and reload, and now you can see it's back. Okay, because it hides and then it goes back to show. Now if we were to put another paragraph, and let's just comment out the show for now, reload, and now both paragraphs are now hidden. Okay, because this is going to select all paragraphs. So if we want to target a certain one, what we could do is put a class here. Let's say class P1, and then down here we can specify paragraph with the class of P1. So now if we reload, only the first paragraph is going to be targeted and hidden. Okay, and we don't need to put this P here. We could just do .P1, and that gives us the same result. If we wanted it to be an ID, we could simply use the number sign like that. Alright, now I want to take a look at some of the mouse events that are available. So what we'll do here is let's create a button, and I'm going to give this button an ID of, we'll say my BTN. Okay, and then for the text we'll just say click. So now we have this button, and I want to set up a click event. So down here, let's just comment that out. Actually, you know what I'll do is we'll do a multi-line comment here. That way, as we move along, we can comment stuff out. Okay, so we're going to use a jQuery selector, and it has, remember, it has an ID of myBTN, so we'll use the number sign and then myBTN, and it's going to be a click event, so we'll say .click, and then in here we need a self-calling function, and then whatever we want to happen. In this case, we'll just alert, and we'll just say you clicked. So if we reload, I click the button, we get an alert that says you clicked. Alright, now when we say .click, this is actually a shorthand syntax, okay, that jQuery uses. What it does actually is it calls the on method. So it says on, and then in here the event, which would be click, and then the function. Okay, so you'll see if I go ahead and I comment this out, we should get the same exact result. Alright, so it's all preference. It's up to you if you want to use the shorthand with just the event name, or you want to use on and then pass the event as a parameter. Alright, but for the rest of this video and probably for the course, we're going to use the shorthand syntax. Now, instead of just doing an alert, let's go ahead and make it so that when we click this button, the paragraph here will hide. Okay, so all we have to do is just again use that selector, and we'll say .p1 .hide. So when I click it, you can see that it goes away. And if we want to be able to toggle it, you'll see right now if I click, it does nothing after it's hidden. But if we want, we can say .toggle, and now every time I click it, it's going to toggle between hide and show. Okay, so you can see how easy it is to have one element on your page affect another one. And that's really where jQuery shines, is through DOM manipulation. Alright, so let's take a look at some of the other events we have. I'm going to go ahead and just comment that. And let's copy this one here, shorthand click event. And let's change this to DBL click. Okay, for double click. So now if I click it, you can see nothing happens. If I double click it, then we get the alert. Alright, and let's just make this the toggle. Okay, so now I have to double click it to do the toggle. Now I'm going to create, under our button, I'm going to put a couple line breaks, and let's create a div, give it an ID of square. Alright, and then up in the head, we're going to put some style tags, and we'll say ID square, give it a background of red, and let's give it a width of, let's see, what did I do, 200 pixels, and a height of 200 pixels. Okay, so if we reload, we now have this red square, and I want to take a look at some of the mouse events. Alright, some more of the mouse events. So let's do hover. I'm going to copy that, and let's just bring this comment down. Okay, I'm going to change this to square, and then change this to hover. And then what I want to do is target the actual element that we're in. Okay, now we could just go ahead and use this selector down here, but since we're already in it, we can actually use this, which makes things a little bit easier. Alright, so let's take this element, and we're going to say .text, which will actually add text to the element, and let's pass in hovering. Okay, now if I go and we hover over it, you can see now we have the text hovering. Now if I go outside of it, it doesn't clear, okay, because it just does this one command. Now if we do want to do something when it's no longer true, when we're no longer hovering, we can add a comma right here and put in another function and do what we want. So let's say this dot text, and then we're going to just put in some blank quotes. Alright, so now if I reload, hover over it, you can see hovering, and then when I leave it, it's going to run this. Okay, so there we go. We also have events called mouse enter and mouse out, which can give us kind of the same effect. So what I'm going to do is comment this out, and let's grab, actually we'll just type it out. So we'll say square, let's do dot mouse enter, and we'll do the same thing, this hovering text. Okay, so reload, go in, we see hovering, and it does the same thing. It's not going to clear on its own, but what we'll do is, let's see, we'll go in here and let's do mouse out and then just clear this. Okay, so we can do that, but I think a better way would be to use this. Okay, so that gives us kind of the same effect. So another one we have is mouse down and mouse up, which pertain to the mouse buttons. So let's go ahead and comment that out. And I'm going to grab this, paste that in, and let's say mouse down, which will be when you're holding the button down. And we'll just change that to mouse down. And then here we're going to say mouse up. Text will say, actually, you know what, we'll just have that be blank. So now if I go in and I hold down the mouse button, you can see mouse down. When I release it, it clears. Okay, so that can be pretty helpful. And then the last mouse event that I want to show you is mouse move, and what that can do is it can actually track the position of the cursor of the mouse. Alright, so let's go ahead and add our selector square, and we're going to say dot mouse move, and we're going to pass in function, and this time we actually want to pass a parameter in here for an event. And then we're going to create a variable called MSG for message. Let's set it to the text mouse position. Alright, and then we want to append to that. So MSG, to append to a variable, you want to use plus equals. And then we're going to take event, and we want the X position, page X, which is vertical, no, horizontal, and let's just concatenate a space, and then we're going to add on event dot page Y, which will be the vertical. All right, and then we want to output that. So let's create another div and put some line breaks, and then we'll have a div with the ID of output, and then down here we can grab that with jQuery, and we're going to use .html, which works just like text, except it actually parses HTML. So we can put a div, and then we'll concatenate that MSG variable, and then our closing div. Alright, so now if I go and reload, we enter it, you can see down here it says mouse position, and it actually tracks the X and Y values of where it's at. Okay, so you can just imagine the possibilities that you could do with something like that, as far as drawing or moving things or some other kind of animation. So that can be really helpful. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and stop here. Those are the mouse events that you can use with jQuery. In the next video, we're going to kind of work on to this with forms. I want to show you some of the form events and input events that we can use, and we'll go from there.